All right, we are here in the 8th, in which should be the final video of animating this logo. And at this point, we've built up everything that's going to be in our scene. So we've got our shield, it's got the replicator in here with all the jewels. There's an effector off camera that we can move around. We've got our background, we've got our set. Just about ready to get into animation, but I just want to clean up a little bit of the outliner mess that I left behind as we were building the set. So for example, this cloner and this effector for it, that is, the rings that are moving around in the background, they belong with the set. So I'm going to select both of those and drag them into our set and then collapse that. And we added this Epic logo and the text here to the shield. And so I want to drag these into the shield stuff. And so we actually have a really, really simple scene here with really a set and a shield and then our actual scene stuff, which most importantly includes our camera. So now that this is all nice and clean, we can get to work on animating. So in our tabs down here, since we are in motion design mode, we have our sequencer. And for those that are experienced Unreal Engine users, don't go looking for the asset for this sequence. It doesn't exist as a separate asset. This is actually saved in the level itself. So this sequence is just part of the level. I can save it. For some reason it's not saved, but now it is. And the first thing that I like to animate is the camera itself. So I will select the camera here, and doesn't have much to look at yet, but let's add it to our sequencer. So clicking the add button, actor to track, the selected actor is the camera, so it's right here at the top. And now we have a track for that, and we have a camera cuts track, so that this will be the camera for the scene. We are at just shy of 60 frames a second. I'm going to knock this down to 30 frames a second. My desktop A10 Mini, I usually just run it at 30 frames. So I'm going to set this to 30 frames a second, and I want this whole thing to be 5 seconds long. So we want a total of 150 seconds for this animation. Right now it ends at 60 seconds, so it's only 2 seconds long. So I will go down here into the lower left-hand corner of all this timeline stuff and type in 150 for frame 150, and that'll move our scrub head out to there. And I can either drag this, or I can right click and say set the end time, or I can expand this a bit and reveal more of the buttons here, and this button here sets our end times. The end time is near. Okay, so we can drag out this camera cut track so it lasts for the duration. And finally, we want to get working on repositioning the camera, but I am looking through it, so this is nice. That was automatic from adding it to the sequencer. This little blue indicator tells me that I'm looking through the camera, as does this. But if there's nothing I can do to move it. The reason is it is currently locked, and it's just a feature in motion design for if you're doing a lot of graphics that are ultimately presented two-dimensionally, even if they're 3D assets. You don't want your camera moving accidentally, so it gets locked. So we're going to unlock it, and then I'm just holding the Alt key and middle mouse dragging out here, so we find a position to essentially film our scene in. Middle mouse, let's see, right mouse, pushing my mouse forward. Again, this is the Alt key is down, and the right mouse button lets me move forward and backwards. So when I pull the mouse closer to me, I move the scene closer to me. When I push the mouse away from me, the scene moves away from me. Let's set up a wide angle lens on this camera, get a lot of dramatic perspective on this. So with the camera selected here in the outliner, we have all of our camera settings, and this just seems like a really odd focal length and 16:9 digital film. I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable with that. So what I'm going to do is set this to 16:9 DSLR. Should be the same aspect ratio and the same resolution, but now I feel like I'm going to be more familiar with the numbers here. So 12 millimeters, it's probably too wide for me. Let's try a 16 millimeter lens, and I feel a little better about that. So a 16 millimeter lens gives me something that I like here. So this is going to be kind of the end position that I want to get from the camera. And it's really easy to just go ahead and like start laying down keyframes right here in our sequencer timeline. There's the transform, and I could set a key. However, trying to animate the camera smoothly on its own is typically just a nightmare, and you end up with all kinds of pushing and pulling and all sorts of wiggly tracks in terms of moving the camera. What I really want to do is keep animation as simple as possible, generally no more than 2 keyframes on any particular setting. To facilitate this for the camera, what I want to do is create a little bit of a rig where I'll have a null, a locator, at the center of the shield, and that'll be my aim point for the camera, as well as I will animate that null to be able to pivot the camera so that we get a really smooth orbiting motion around that shield. So I'll go ahead and click on the null control and drop that into the scene, and I should be able to find it right here is my null. And then I'll set it to 0, 0, 0, and let's zero out the rotations as well. And so that is in position. And let's drag that into our camera setup. And then I will take the camera and parent it to the null. So now anywhere the null moves, it's going to bring the camera along for a ride at this radius, at this distance from that null. So I can take the null itself and add that to my sequencer. So I should hit the add button, actor, and there's my null. And maybe I should give this a name. So selected and F2, and we'll just call this camera null. Okay. And finally, I want the camera to always aim at this null so that wherever it goes, it's aiming at that null. Going to set a keyframe for the null. Doesn't have a transform track yet, so let's click the plus button and add a transform track and add a key for that. And so now that's all locked in. And I want to make sure the camera's always aiming right there. So I'll select the camera in the outliner, go to the look at controls. I will set that camera null into our actor track. So I can just type in the word null, and there is my camera null. And finally, we should be able to activate this. And now our camera is always going to be looking at that. Now, I do have an offset. So if I want to lower the camera here at the end, if this is going to be my end point, I'd like to get the shield a little higher in the scene so I can lower my target point. So let's say I put in a -100 and a -150 and a -200. That feels a little better. So this is going to be my endpoint, and I might need to animate this. So I'm going to click this little diamond for the rotational, and that'll add that parameter to the timeline for the camera. So I just click right here. Now I've got that keyframe, and I've got my relative offset is here. So that's where the camera is going to end up. And let's go to the beginning of the shot. And again, I don't want to move the camera, so I'm actually going to lock that and see if I can move the null without having to unlock the camera. So I don't want to look through the camera as I'm moving the null. Well, actually I can, right? So I can take the rotations of my camera. Z rotation is our orbit. So let's see, if I move negative, that goes the wrong way. So I move positive. So there we go, we're moving to this position. And then I want to raise that up. So this will be the x-axis rotation to pivot on the x-axis, I think. So there we go. So this is a pretty good starting point right here. I kind of like it. And so I want to set a keyframe for that transform. So I'll set that. Now, probably useful to have keyframes automatically set when I start moving things. And it used to be that there was a key here and we turn it on, but it looks like we have options now. So we have auto key, auto track, all. For now, I'm just going to do auto key because that's what I'm most familiar with. All right. So now we've got this animation. Already the camera's animated, right? So I can hit play, and by default we have this ease in, ease out. Well, that's not really all that exciting. So what I'd like to do is have the camera moving really quick at the beginning and then kind of ease into its end spot. So let me drag and select these two keyframes, and this is a brand new feature in Unreal 5.4, and this gives us an option to select a number of presets in terms of the animation profile, or design our own profile for how our play out, in and out, the speeds of the animation as it goes in and out of each of these keys actually works. So if I drop down this list of presets, this set down here gives me just about what I'm looking for here in Quintic, I think this says. So we get this acceleration at the beginning, and then it kind of eases into the end point. I'm just hovering my mouse over that to see that little animatic. So I will click on that, and now the tangents for these keyframes have been set automatically for me. And if I hit play, now we have a little more acceleration and slowing in the end. All right, so maybe I want this a little bit faster though. Yeah, I want this faster. So I can click and drag on this. I should be able to anyway. Let's see here. Select that keyframe. Why am I, there we go. I'm just missing. There we are. So we get this. And now we should have this be a little faster at the beginning. There we go. Okay, that's what I like. Snappy at the beginning and then ease into all of that at the end. So let's go ahead and save our sequence with everything we've done. And so now I want to go ahead and animate the text and the logo to come into this shield. Before I get into that animation, let's go ahead and organize ourselves a bit. These two tracks have to do with the camera. So I'm going to add a folder here, and I'll call this camera. And I can click on these two with the shift key and drag and drop those in there, and maybe set a color to this, or right click and set a color to this. There we go. Blue, and maybe a little desaturated. There we go. All right, so there's my camera. And now those tracks are nice and tucked away, and I'm really happy with the camera as it is now. Actually, let me adjust one more thing. The logo is, crowded up here at the top. So let me just go into our animation. Well, actually, we have auto keying on, right? So I should be able to select my camera, and in the details, I could set this value, and I should automatically get a key in the camera track for that offset. So if I set this to 0, and sure enough, we have a key there. All right. And maybe just to give that a plus 100. There we go. Now the entire logo is in there. We don't need it perfect. We just want it, we're coming in after a long flight and just landing here. So yeah, liking how that all settles in. Really nice. Okay. Now, let's get back to work on our text and other content in the shield itself. One of the things I do want to do before I get into the animating of this is I feel like this logo could be bigger. So hit R here and scale this up a bit, not too much. There we go. And W, maybe give it a little more breathing room. And let's see this design as well. Let's bring that up in scale. Where do we end up here? At 11. So 11. And because we have a lock on this, this isn't locking the settings, it's locking them together. And so we can select on motion and also give that an 11. So now our text is the same size. Okay, so I'd like the text to animate in one letter at a time. And there is a feature for that built into our 3D text. It's right here, our text 3D character transform. So I'll expand that, and it's just location that I want to animate. And by default, this is usually off. I was playing with it earlier to get ready for this video. So, if it's off, you want to turn it on. And I'm not going to use location range, so I'll just set that to 0. And we have a value of 10 in here. I think the default is usually 100. And there is the location progress. So if I click and drag on this, what you'll see is the characters are going to move, and they're moving back behind the shield when this progresses. So at 0, everything's as close to the camera as it's going to get, and at 100, they're all pushed away. So what I want to do is, first of all, move the location so they're really far away behind the camera. So I'm going to set this to 500. And then I will bring the text object. Let me just see what happens if I do negative 500. Yeah, either way, we're pushing away. So I'll do positive 500 here. And then I'll bring the text object itself. Sorry, let's select that again. Where did it go? Right here, I think it is. W. I'm going to pull this back until we can see the text on the shield. I'm going to eject out of the camera. It's really easy. I can hit this button here, or I can hit the C key. There we go. C. There we go. Now we're popped out of the camera, so I'm just moving my perspective viewer, and we can bring this text back. There we go. So this is where it's going to land. This is, again, if I select the text, this value is at 100. And when we animate this, the text is over here, like 500 units away when it's 0. So this shouldn't be seen by the camera, right? If I hit C, we don't see that. And as we animate this, the text comes in. So again, kind of keeping with my theme of doing a single pair of keyframes, I will start animating that in right about here. So we will set our key by clicking this diamond control, and there it is. It's adding our text and our initial keyframe at the current frame. And we'll just get this to like right here is motion. And so I will animate this to be at 100. So now, all right, very nice. That's great just the way it is. I'm going to keep that. So that brings our motion in. Maybe I'll push this a little further apart, and maybe we select both of these and see if, yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, so that's good. Let's work on the word design. We can do essentially the same thing. So I'll click on the word design, and again, we'll go into our text location and activate that. And I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to set this to 500, and we'll set this to 100. And let's see to pop out of our camera and zoom back in our perspective and push this into place so that at the value of 100, design is where we want it, right there. Very good. And then C to jump back to our camera. And we'll want that to come in after motion is about done. So like the letter N is just into view here. So at this point, I'll set a key for design to be at 0. And we'll play for a few seconds, and that's probably more than enough, like right about here. And we'll set this to 100, and let's play that back. All right, not too bad. And we also have the shield logo for Epic to take care of. So this will just animate manually. I'm going to have it land right here, so I'll just select this and add it to my timeline. And we'll key its transform right here. And then right about here, we will relocate it behind the camera. So C, pop out of our camera, push ourselves back, make sure that this is out of the way, and then back to C to get into our camera. And let's play our animation back. All right. Want this to come in a little poppier, so let's select that. And let's go back to this keyframe. So I just clicked on the keyframe to get there. And I'm going to make sure that everything is keyed, and click here. And key, everything is keyed. And so if I select both of these, there we go. We get this little tool. And let's pick a preset here. Maybe we want it moving in a little more like this. Let's try that. Nice. Okay. So just one last thing. We're almost done here. I want a little more action in these background objects here. So let's collect these 3 into their own folder. So let's see what happens if I shift select these 3 and add a folder. They don't automatically go in. That's okay. So logo stuff. And we will make that a reddish color. Reddish. Okay. And we'll drag these into that folder. Okay. And I want to animate the cloner that's making this background. So let's work with that. I'll select that cloner. This is shield stuff, so that's not where it is. And this is our default scene, and this is our set, and there is our cloner. So I'll select that cloner, and we're going to go ahead and add that into our sequence. So add actor, that cloner. We're going to want to transform on this, so add a transform track so that we can move it up and down. And I will, I think, lower this first. Oh, it's already pretty low. So let's set a key for that transform location. And we'll set another key at the end. And let's just set this to 0. And let's take a look at that animation. All right, so we've got that stuff going up higher, but a lot of this animation is going around behind us. So let me spin this around so that we can see the movement of these different rings. So I'm going to remove the key for rotation. We don't want to animate rotation. We're just animating it moving vertically. And since I've removed that key, I should be able to spin this around so that hopefully we can see more of. There we go. Let's all of that movement's happening. While we're in here, let's reduce the spacing. There we go. And let's take the effector for this and see if moving that anywhere gives us, yeah, we probably want to lower this C to get out of our camera. Let's take a look at what this is all looking like here. Looks like we've got everything a little off kilter here. So 0 that out, and cloner, 0 U out. There we go. That looks better. And let's select our effector again. And so there we go. We now have more movement happening around where the camera is looking. If we do this, it looks like. And finally, let's just see about rotating this a little bit more. Nope, sorry, this doesn't do us any good whatsoever because it's not the cloner. Selecting the cloner and rotate the cloner a bit to here. Okay, so C key again to go into our camera. And now we can see more of that movement happening behind us. And there we go. One more thing. We're almost there. I just want to animate the effector for the jewels on the shield, right? So let's close this cloner here, and we'll leave that where it is, and we're going to add a track into here because these jewels are on the shield. And we'll go back into our shield, select the effector, and let's start right about, we want all the lettering in the shield to land. So we will key right here. So with the effector selected, we will add that actor to our tracks. And where did that go? It is, looks like it's in the folder. No, it's not. I just drag and drop that into the folder, and we'll set a keyframe. So we need a transform track, add transform, and now we can set a keyframe. And let's go to the end here and move this into a position that kind of gives us all of that kind of light with a little bit of we want a little darkness. So let's reduce the outer edge of this. We're not going to animate this. We're just going to bring this down to, let's try 4,000, 3,000, 2,000. 2,000 is too small. 2,600. There we go. Something like that. And that should do it, right? So there's our animation. And so I'm not quite thrilled with the timing here, so I feel like I'd like to have this hit faster as it's coming in. So let me select that and find its keyframes. Here they are. Select these, and let's move this so that this is going to hit a little bit. We still want a little bit of ease in, but if I pull this, there we go. Now let's take a look at that. Nice. So we get a little pause delay there. Motion design, and then Epic comes in, and I'd like the animation of the effector for the jewels to happen a little bit sooner. So I'm just going to take the end keyframe and pull that up. So now, something along those lines. Maybe we ease this in and out a little bit more. So let's bring it like this. More ease into that ending. There we go. Let's try that. Nice. We could extend that almost, like, so maybe we want that to start hitting after all the text is in place. So let's bring this to here, give this a shot. Motion design, that starts to come in as Epic hits. All right, so you get the idea. At this point, everything is set up, everything's animated, and we could just, tweak and, to taste, make everything look the way we want it. So that's it. This is a little bit different than the original, but it gets all of the pieces in, and hopefully you were able to pick up some of the new features. I really like the new keyframing system over here, and I hope this helps. I'm looking forward to, share your animations. Let's see your motion graphics. So I hope this helps. Until next time, have fun.